Hello, friends and family. Welcome to Unserious University episode 7. Today, we are sitting down with my youngest brother, Noah. We're swinging the pendulum the entire other way. Last episode, you guys got to listen to my 93-year-old grandmother and her takes on the world and her perspective on things. And now you will listen to a 19-year-old and what he thinks of the world and how it works. This was definitely a fun and interesting change of pace. I think I can confidently say that I learned things about my brother that I did not know prior to sitting down for this. He currently is an aspiring entrepreneur as he has started his own car detailing business. So if you've been thinking about getting washed and getting all the bells and whistles cleaned off on the inside and outside, hit him up. But I give him the floor a little and let him explain how he sees the world at his age, what he wants to be in life, where he wants to go. And he's pretty sure of things, which is fun. I kind of grill him at the beginning because I wanted to get the juices flowing, and I have some questions for him. But we will bounce around from how our relationship has developed over the years to how he views life and success and what it takes, to even some of his takes on relationships. And so this one's fun. It's definitely different than any of the other ones I've made. And so I'm interested to hear people's feedback and what they think. I hope you enjoy it. And maybe you'll get a little bit of inspiration or a little bit of a fire under your ass from a teenager speaking about how they view the world and how they're going to go get it no matter what it takes. So with that being said, this is episode 7 of Unserious University. I'm recording the intro and I still don't know what the title is because, man, it's hard to figure out. But thank you for listening. We're going to begin the episode now. Ha! I like this. Okay, I got a couple questions and shit we can bounce off of. This will be a fun one. So first, I'll have you introduce yourself. You can go name, occupation, whatever you want people to know you as or by. And then I'll bounce a couple things off you from there.
Okay.
Floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Oh. I thought you said for sure.
If this makes a podcast and anyone's listening, I'm eating chocolate, so my bad.
My name's Noah. I've been detailing for probably about 6 months. Other than that, I've been working regular jobs like grocery stores, frozen yogurt, things like that for probably about 4 years. And then I'm currently 19, if that puts anything into perspective. Before that, I played baseball from T-ball to about freshman year. I coached and training like gymnastics, tumbling, tricking, a little bit of cheer classes I would cover, stuff like that. I did that for 2.5, 3 years. And like a year of volleyball. That's about it.
How do you know me?
And I am yours truly's brother.
Correct. So there are a couple things I want to dive into when I was looking up little talking points just to give us something to bounce off. But it was a really fun one because this is something that I'll ask people my age, but you're, 8 years younger than me?
Mm-hmm.
So asking you this will be fun. But if you had this is we're getting a little cliche here, but bear with me. If you had any advice to give your younger self, what would that be? This is a great thing to ask a 19-year-old.
Experience trumps practice.
What do you mean?
I mean, if you practice to do something, you're better off just doing it. Like if you let's say you're going to practice door knocking, for instance, and you practice for 5 days straight, and you practice for 8 hours a day or whatever. You practice 40 hours on door knocking. You're going to go and door knock a door, and you're going to shit yourself on the way up. You practice 40 hours of door knocking and just do that. You go to door knock a door, and you're going to walk up like it's your next shift. Mm-hmm. Rather than practicing for doing a thing, just doing the thing with a little bit of practice will put you a lot further above everybody else.
So a lot less prep and a lot more do.
100%.
What's door knocking?
Everybody's had a guy come up and sell them solar or something at their front door. Mm-hmm. It's harder to do, I would say, because it's a colder lead. Nobody wants somebody to come up and knock on the door and sell them something at 9 a.m. Nobody wants to come and answer that.
I have roommates that would shoot you if you knocked on the door at 9 a.m.
Versus somebody that's like actively seeking out that service, you looking it up on Google.
Right. Have you done door knocking for your detailing business?
Like, very little.
Yeah. But you've done it?
Like, very little. I think I did 12 houses that got all no's.
Really?
Yeah, but I think it's, I'd have to look, but I think I'm like 80 something mailboxes have my business card on them. And then I've made 3 details off that so far.
So with running your own, so you started your own detailing business. Why?
I think mostly it's just because I would rather work for myself than anybody else. And I would rather do the sucky shit for myself, knowing it's going to benefit myself rather than somebody else in the long term. Like, if I go in and I clock in, I get paid for that shift no matter what I do. So then I go in, I do the shitty thing, and then the only person that benefits is the employee, like the employer or the company's brand or name itself. You're promoting them or actively working to better their name. So if I'm going to work my ass off, I'd rather better my own name. Mm-hmm. So it kind of seems like if I'm going to work and spend all my time doing that, why not just spend it where the extra effort would actually go towards myself? Mm-hmm. And then I get to decide kind of our schedule, the thing I'm actually going to be doing. And then I'm not tied to a certain kind of life where it's like no matter what I have to go in, I would much rather own a business than be one of the workers forever.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? I think a lot of people have like the daydream at their desk job of starting their own business or taking that leap, but a lot of people don't do it. Obviously, you have the advantage of still living with our parents.
Yeah.
So it's a smaller leap, but still a leap. What has been the hardest part for finding success when you're the only one accountable or holding yourself accountable?
Like, what's the hardest part about holding myself accountable?
No, like, what's the hardest part about finding success in your business? Like, what do you feel like? Because it's one thing to just start your own business. It's another thing to run it successfully. And I think a lot of people's worry is like, yeah, I can go start a business, but what if it doesn't work? Like, I'll be wasting my time. I'll be wasting my money. And so you've done it. You've made the leap. And now you are continuously working towards growing your clientele. What has been the hardest part about doing that? Like growing your clientele, starting to like see an increase in revenue and all of that stuff.
I think the hardest part is trying to reach different rooms that you have no way of getting into. And it's like like I said, there's warm leads and cold leads. And cold approach is always going to be a lot more difficult, but put you in rooms that didn't even know your name and nobody knows like them mutually that you know. It's not going to be word of mouth. It would have taken a lot longer to get there.
Through a bunch of warm leads.
And it almost kind of sprouts another seed in another direction of your word kind of spreading. So it's harder to get those. And I think that's probably the hardest part, is trying to get the cold leads and then transfer those into like really good clients that are going to refer you to their friends, because then that's a whole different pool of people that are or potentially can buy from you, and you had no access to, just your friend knows them or your
Right.
family member knows them or something like that.
It's a different type of vouch.
Exactly. It's just purely on the value that you provided.
Mm-hmm. What's your end goal with it?
Ideally to spend probably 8 to 12 hours on it a week, and it to produce probably easily over 200K profit.
200K profit a year
Yeah,
with 8 to 12 hours.
just managing it and then not actually detailing the actual cars myself. Like end goal.
Mm-hmm. Do you put like a certain like multi-year plan for yourself? Do you have like milestones or checkpoints or things of that extent, or do you feel like it's still early game and too early to call that stuff?
In a way, yes, but I don't think it's like 2 years in advance, or I think I kind of like am guessing like, okay, it's going to be 6 months until I get this upgrade, or it's going to be about a year until I get this. But ultimately, what I'm worried about is just the next thing, and then just trying to get that as quickly as I can, get to the next thing, and trying to, because like, let's say like somebody's goal is like, I'm going to accomplish 100 things for my detailing business this year, and mine's like, I'm going to accomplish one every day. Like, I'm already 265 things above you in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how many people can I either knock down a level a little bit and kind of compete with? And I just mean value wise as a new business, and like starting out completely with just going up to the value wise of these businesses that have been around and have experience of 3 years, 5 years, things like that.
You're trying
and
to
already have a name. Exactly. And then leaving other people behind where they don't have a chance to ever outcompete you or be that person that got that door open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a bit cutthroat running your own business.
A little bit.
So let's say you accomplish your dream. We're doing $200,000 a year, and you're putting 8 to 12 hours in. So it's like a part-time of a part-time job. What would you spend your time doing? Your personal time, like, you've done it. You're living the dream.
Build another business or two.
Okay.
I manage about 3 or 4 businesses, work roughly 30 to 40 hours a week, and then big house, racetrack at home, like drift,
racetrack
big
at home,
garage, lifts, big nice kitchen for the family, like living room, big nice house, tall ceilings, whatever the wife wants for the house. I just care about the garage.
Grown ass teenager.
Men never grow up; they just get bigger toys. I don't know who told you they did.
Would you prefer, like, in your end goal dream situation, would you prefer to work at all? Like, if you could have the income from the businesses passively, would you prefer to not work?
I think no matter what now, I would want to work probably at least 20-ish hours a week.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. Eventually, I want to try to buy a lot of real estate assets, so I think that's going to also take time to manage. Mm-hmm. But even 3 businesses producing a good amount, and then rental properties that I have to manage, then that would take up a decent amount of my time. Eventually, I can train someone to kind of help, or I can just sell the company and buy bigger assets. But either way, I think that way, most people try to survive off 1 income, or 2 if you're a couple together. But I think if everybody tries to survive off 1 and I try to survive off 4, it's hard to lose.
Yeah, I understand that. When do you think, because again, for most of the people listening, I'm considered young around a lot of people that I'm around.
I think it's just perspective of the viewer, always.
So yeah, of course, naturally. But when do you think you shifted your perspective towards multiple incomes, owning assets, running a business? Like, when did this become a priority for you? Because you were a kid like 2 years ago, legally, and so you're talking pretty big and pretty adult-esque, which is great. I mean, I've told people, and people who know you know that you're mature for your age. And so this doesn't quite shock me, but it may surprise people who don't really know who you are, that this is like kind of where your eyes are on. And so when do you think you started caring about this stuff?
I think I had a little bit of an eye for it. They started pushing college in middle school, and I was like, fuck that. Debt? No, thank you. I was selling candy, and that was kind of like, I'm making money. Like, I can work for myself. I can start, like, selling stuff. I can start doing my own thing. Like, if I was to do this on a larger scale, like, this could be really good. And then after that, I kind of got my first taste of, like, once I was in high school, I think it was sophomore year, I started working for Sweet Frog or whatever the frozen yogurt place was, basically.
Yeah, Sweet Frog.
And there was kind of like my first taste of like, oh my god, I can just show up and get money. This is great. And then like that kind of like slowly, like it was like whatever, it wasn't that great. And it slowly started to die off. I was like, all right, I'll look for something else. And then I ended up at a grocery store, and there was kind of my first real taste of like people who all wanted to do something else but never made it out. They just sat there and they chose to do the one thing that they didn't want to do every single day because it was the safe option. And now every day they choose to go in anyways, hating it. And they were all miserable. And it doesn't make it fun for anyone. And like, I feel bad saying it like that, but they all like, you can ask them, like they all had a dream. They all had something they wanted to do. And none of them want to see all the new people come in, get stuck there. They all tell them to leave. So it's like, I didn't want to be the next person that was just too scared to quit. And seeing each one of the people that you talk to and hang out with at like work, and you're like, oh, you're super cool. Leave, and you're like, okay, they did something better. They did something better. It feels like you're just the next one to get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like at some point it was kind of like, rather than shovel shit for somebody else, I'd rather shovel some shit for me for a while, and then eventually it amounts to something, rather than just builds up the company name of my local grocery store. And that doesn't really help me 20, 30 years from now. That doesn't do anything for me.
Mm-hmm. Do you think so? You want to talk about how you chose car dealing as your business?
So I kind of hit a point where I was like, all right, fuck it. And I quit. And then for a month straight, I figured out what I was going to do next. And a month in, I had a full business plan for a detailing thing. So I had like kind of like some fee-based services, a rough estimate on kind of like what I was going to charge. I was starting to learn how to do those services and provide them. That way I can provide them time and time again to when I show up to somebody's house or a client's house. And then just going into kind of trying to get like a logo or trying to build this brand and this image of something. Because it's like some people don't even advertise their cars, or like they don't have commercials. They just, everybody knows who they are just based off of their own product. Everybody
Word of
knows.
mouth.
Exactly, just because of who they are. And so I think building the brand's image and what people are going to perceive it as is very big. So building that and trying to get all of that tied in. But I think it took me about 3-ish weeks to kind of figure out what I wanted to do, in like a week, and I already had figured out what I was going to do, and then the next month I was doing it.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, why did you pick car detailing specifically as the service? Like you chose to start a business and you chose to provide a service rather than a product. But why did you choose car detailing?
I chose car detailing just because I already have a passion in cars. So doing something with something that you already love is never going to be a bad thing. Doing something directly with the exact thing you love, I think can be. I think sometimes it can kind of kill your love or ambition for the thing. But doing something kind of related to, or kind of that gives you that taste of it, but isn't fully exactly what you're going to do and burn you out on it, is really nice and refreshing for the soul when you're not just showing up and doing the thing for somebody else. And then I also felt like it was something that I could easily throw myself into and then jump into and do it. Like I already would work on my car a little bit, and I just been like cleaning it and doing whatever, not to anywhere to the scale that I do now, but it made me feel like I could kind of hop into that realm knowing that I was a little bit more comfortable in that.
I guess so I'm not a car person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you found your way into that culture in that space. How did you get into there? Like you were able to find your place working a car detailing business because of your passion for cars, but where did that originate?
I think it stemmed from movies and games. Like sounds funny, but like Fast and Furious movies, or like just like the chase scenes in movies, or like playing Need for Speed games, or like I was over at the neighbor's house and we're playing. It's like, all right, 2 crashes, my turn, bro. Like, so like things like that. And then as I got a little bit older and actually being like, oh, I want a car. What kind of car do I want? Kind of made me like look into it a little bit. And then I think just drifting itself has always kind of caught my eye. So once I did want a car, like it made me like, oh, what cars can do this? So then I kind of had a little bit of a spark of a question, but not really a means to getting into it, where it's like, even if you have a question about something, you can ask your question, but you don't have a next question or something to talk about else. So like kind of meeting people that were into those same similar things gave me other things and other similar things in that realm to talk about that I would be interested in. So it kind of just kept the learning curve and curiosity growing.
I think I remember you talking to me about Initial D as well. I never ended up watching it. I still haven't. But I know that's like culturally very big, particularly just in Japan, but also in the car space. I know it's big enough because I recognize the theme song for it, and I have that on like one of my playlists because that shit goes hard as fuck. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a fascinating space that I've never been drawn to individually, but there's just, I don't know, such a culture to it. Like I love baseball. I have there's so many like phrases and niche jargon and like words people use and just generally understood concepts. And then when you would share that part of your passion with me, you would talk about all these different like niches or memes or jargon or phrases that exist in that space. And I don't know, it was just kind of a little mind-blowing to be like, I think it's a good sign of culture when you can look at someone and be like, I can say a whole sentence to you that makes no sense to you, but to a car person, they would, they know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know if you even would have an example sentence or something like that, because like you could say that right now into the mic, and then someone who's listening, who's a car person or in that space, would be like, yeah, I know what the fuck this kid's talking about.
I don't even know off the top of my head.
Yeah, and there's no pressure. I'm not saying to just do it right now, but I enjoy that kind of stuff. And then you could perplex someone like with with baseball, you could say something along the lines of like, oh yeah, like you threw someone an Uncle Charlie, you got a worm burner, okay, and then you got a 2-6-3 to end the inning.
No, yeah, there's a lot of like little things like that. Like it sounds like always funny, like just saying them on their own, but like there's like one that's like the chicken was still warm for dinner, and like everyone's like what, mm-hmm, and like every car person's like kind of like pointing up, like knows, like nodding their head, like ball, knows exactly, yeah.
What does that mean?
There's 2 variations of the story, but like basically there's a guy and he's going into some kind of food restaurant and he's getting food, and he ends up having to not rush home to dinner but have to rush to the hospital. And since he has a super fast car and he does like 150 160 to the hospital the whole way, he gets there and he hands his wife like warm chicken straight to her at the hospital. And it's kind of like this like awe moment of like, oh, he was able to get there that quick. And kind of like if you were in a slow car, you would have never had the chance to ever been able to do that.
Yeah.
So I feel like in some way or shape or form, in the eyes of like car people, it's kind of like a cool like they could never thing.
Yeah.
And it's like they feel like because of that you could be able to have those spare like little opportunities that other people couldn't have, and they take pride in that. But there is like other stories where there are like true stories of people getting there very quickly, just because they have a really quick car and they know how to drive it. So it's like I've also been in there, it's like, hey, we need you, and like you're there really quickly, like, so it's very helpful at certain times. So I think that's partly it.
When you see like, so on the topic of like people using their car's power to its full extent in that way of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get there faster than anyone. When you see videos of people online and they're like straight mobbing through traffic, how can you tell the difference between like, oh, this dude's like a piece of shit versus like, oh, this is like someone who's like handling this professionally?
There's 2 different ways. There's like there's people who drive like assholes, but they're good. Like, they won't hit you. They'll drive like an asshole, and I'll confirm it, but they're good. But, like, and they'll take opportunities that, like, even like scary, risky people that I'm like, you should not be on the road, wouldn't take, and they're perfectly okay. But then there's other people, and even doing some of the simplest things, like I just noticed, and I'm like, oh, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it depends. Like, there's also courtesy to other people, and I think sometimes you're going too fast for that, and sometimes you're not going that fast, and it's not that serious. Like, if you're just kind of cruising through. But when you are going too fast to be able to slow down sometimes, and you just kind of have to go through some kind of gap or window, then I think it does come down a lot to skill. But I think there's a lot of ego and people not being able to stay within their comfort zone, and people don't understand baby steps as well as they think they do.
Mm-hmm. So they're biting off more than they can chew.
Sometimes, yeah.
Bobbing and weaving, and they're putting themselves and others at risk.
Sometimes, yeah, 100%. Some people, like, you can get in a car and you can sleep while they do like 140 down the freeway, and it is not a problem.
I would never be able to sleep if someone's doing 140.
Other people, like, they drive 65 in the middle lane, and I'm like, bro, get over to the right. I can't even look at my phone. Like, my brake is not here. It's imaginary. Like, I'm stepping on the floor in the passenger seat.
Oh my God. Have you dealt with people with ego issues in your experience in the space?
I don't think I've... Yeah. 100%.
In what ways? Like, what have you had to deal with?
You find out really quickly. Like, their face says it all when they end up in a position they were not ready for. Or when, like, you can tell, like, when a car's never done something that somebody did not want it to. Like, they do something and they're like, oh, this is going to be so cool. And it does not do that. And they go, oh, shit. And you can see it written all over them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I think that sometimes shows it.
Yeah, that I don't know. That comes off, like, to me, like, kind of like being a rookie, though. But I mean more or less, like, this person's, like, being arrogant or, like, a dick.
I mean, like, how so?
Like, you can just tell the difference between someone who is the shit and versus someone who thinks they're the shit.
Yeah.
And, like, and like, I've seen, like, you've shown me certain people's, like, Instagram profiles or certain videos of certain cars, and you've been like, this person is the shit. And then I know that you've gone to, like, certain experiences where you encountered certain people where they think they're like that person and they're not. And what are some of your, like, red flags for that? Like, they're hyping up their trash ass car.
I think somebody who did it is going to show you it really quickly. I think somebody who wants to do it talks about it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the people that do some of the crazy stuff, or they're very low-key about it. Like, you'll hear somebody that, like, if you drift in first gear or second gear, it's a lot easier than drifting in, like, third or even fourth is insane. But if somebody's like, oh, yeah, like, I was hitting this corner in third, like, to them, it's, like, a normal thing. They've hit that corner that many times for it to be a normal thing to say it like that. But, like, then it's kind of like, oh, that sounds normal. But they also probably have or could show you any proof of it. But then there's also other people, and they're like, oh, yeah, I did this, and I did... nah. And it's like, they don't ever do things with their car when they're out. They only talk about it, and there's no video evidence of it. So, like, sometimes that, but other times it's just, like, you can tell it, like I said, when the car doesn't do what people want it to, it shows really quickly. Because, like, when you do...
Can you give, like, an example?
When you do push your car and it kicks out on you, like, I mean, it's completely sideways, and you don't want it to be. You were just trying to go around a corner quick, but you've never had a car kick out. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to spin around. You don't know if you're going to go back straight. You don't know which way to point the wheel. Do I gas now? Do I brake? What do I do? And you watch them go, oh, shit, before they react. Somebody who's done it and has gone, oh, shit, 5 times, reacts every time.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, like, you can sit there and you can watch 5 videos on how to do this thing, or what to do if you get snap oversteer, or what to do if this wrong thing occurs. But, like, until you get it, until you actually are in that scenario, you feel it, or it happens the 3 different ways it's going to go down, or the 4, or whatever, you don't know. And until you were there, you were the person it happens to, you genuinely don't. You can say you do, you can pretend you do, but you don't until you have lived it.
Yeah.
So it just takes you pushing yourself in baby steps to find out where that is. Just that way you know where it is and you don't push that.
Here's a fun Here's a fun question for someone like you in that space. If you could change traffic laws, what would you change? You had the magic pen, and you could go and change the rules of the road. And you're still trying to minimize. You're trying to keep it so not too many people die.
Okay. So the most like common one I've heard is like basically it takes X amount of track hours of you pushing your car to get like I don't know, like there's class A, there's class C, there's like different types of licenses.
Right.
So you get a different type of class of license, which means I can use this lane and I can go above the speed limit, let's say 40 over or something.
Mm-hmm.
So then since I'm trained to be able to drive that fast without these dickheads in my way, then I'll be all right because no one's going to switch in my lane at 40 under the speed limit in front of me and create a problem and then create a backup for everyone behind me.
Yeah.
So like that argument works decent, but I think doing that much for a little population wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, yeah. Like
and
society
I think
wouldn't.
If you're giving it out to that many people, then it also wouldn't be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that would per se help, but I think people being pulled over for how slow they're driving rather than how fast they're always driving would also make a big difference. But I think rather than like driving laws, I would just delete carb.
You would delete what?
I would delete carb and like smog.
Oh, okay.
Like the people that push it or that believe in it, like their favorite brand or wherever they got food or dinner is pushing out more emissions than that car.
Mm-hmm.
And you supported it all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And like another thing is like people like to say this here because it's in California, but it's like this is the only state where you can chop off your dick, but not your muffler. That's kind of fucking wild. I'm gonna just say that. I mean, you don't even got to be an adult and they let you. That's kind of wild. So my muffler fell off a half a mile back, and that's a $400 ticket, and you got to go to the courthouse. How does that make sense?
Holy shit. I was not prepared. That's so funny. Yeah, I get that. I think I don't know. There could be I think the way that the trends are pointing is most average people will be going electric if they haven't already. And so I think as that transition happens and the fleet globally starts to rely on less emission heavy transportation, I think that there could be an argument to be made for less stringent laws on gas cars once they become the minority. Because then, like, you know, if you don't have a muffler or if you don't need to worry about smog, then it's like that small group of people still driving gas cars in that future date won't be the main contributor to emissions. Like, whereas nowadays those laws aren't for people like you who enjoy cars so thoroughly. They're for people like me who, if I want to drive to work, I should probably drive something that's better for the environment because I'm just using this as a point A to point B thing. So I can see that argument being made down the line. If you're like, I want to do some crazy fucking mods and be able to drive on the road, and as long as I'm following like proper protocol, then I shouldn't be in trouble because we've kind of moved past this issue.
I think that most people just don't think that it should move like that because, like, if you have money, the rules don't apply. Take Disneyland, for instance. They shoot off fireworks in Anaheim and have been trying to get fined for it for years, and they just pay it. They don't care about emissions. They don't care about any of that. They just pay it.
Right.
But there's no one to step in. There's no emission like regulatory.
Yeah, like regulatory
people to, like, step in. Yeah,
department.
exactly. So it's kind of like if you have money, that's not the problem. It's not actually emissions.
Right.
So it's just kind of like it doesn't really make sense or tie back to that at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think I'm gonna do a little bit of a hard pivot, and then we can dive back into cars and stuff if you have other points you want to cover, but I kind of want to get a little bit more into the perspective of your mindset and why you push for the things you do. What, and this is going to be, I'm going to ask some tough questions just because those are the ones that usually give the more interesting answers. So I don't expect, don't put too much pressure on yourself for a perfect response. But what is your main driver behind why you do any of this? Like, what do you think motivates you? What do you think, like, some of the core values you have on your mindset on life is?
People don't like this answer, but I just want more things, and I want it more than most people.
Mm-hmm.
And since I want it more, I'll do more.
Mm-hmm.
And since they want it less, they'll do less, and they'll get less.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how life works.
Yeah. Do you think that's our society thing, or do you think that's like a human nature thing?
I think it's a bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, human nature, I think it was probably depleting after a certain point. Like, the food was going to go bad. Like, there was only so much you could do in a day for it to genuinely be worth. But I feel like now, where we live in a society where you can build things for years to come, there's endless amounts of work in a way.
Right. And like, I don't know, like, what's the point of it all? Like, why do any of it? Why push yourself so hard, and why want all of these things? Why not go live in a cabin and be a recluse, or a beach hippie, or like, you know, why do you find value in it? Why do you find value in wanting things more than other people?
I think even if you live some kind of life where it's kind of like almost like a fuck you to society, then even if it's like that, not even like a fuck you to society, but like just kind of like a
Write your
I'm
own
not
rules.
doing it. Yeah, exactly. Like trying to write your own rules that are just like, they're like within the book, but they're like, okay, like I guess, like, you know what I mean? It's like if you live in your van, you're still going to want to go and eat at this nice place. You're not going to not have that desire anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You just chose to give it up.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's like, and like, if that's what you want and you don't ever want to do those things again, then that's okay. But I think people make decisions not genuinely understanding all of the consequences that are going to follow, whether they're positive or negative. They will consequently follow, and you have to be okay with them, all of them.
Yeah. Not just the rose-colored
100%. And I think, like, if you're going to work averagely hard for, I don't know, 45, 40 years and retire, and then you're going to retire old and not be able to travel or do all the things you wanted to with an average amount of money, then that's great. That's what you get, and that's what you deserve. You put an average amount of work, you got an average amount of things. Mm-hmm. But I think things exponentially grow. So the sooner you get it when you're young, the better. And if I don't get it by the time I'm like 30, then like that's looking bad. But and I'm just meaning asset growth and total amount of money to be made ever. But not that you can't get it. You can be
30 and start.
You could be 30 and start. I just say that because that means I would be trying for 12 years and I wouldn't have had any success.
Right.
Versus somebody could start at 30 and they could have success 6 months in, and they could have it bigger than the last 30 guys like that tried. So I think it's very dependent on how much you want it and what you're willing to, not only like what you're willing to kind of give up to get it, but also like, because everyone just kind of thinks about, oh, like the good side, but like all of the backhanded things are all of the things that genuinely you have to accept to get
the sacrifice.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And nobody ever really thinks about that or focuses on that. So bringing all that to that and kind of understanding that and worrying more about those than the actual thing itself will get you there a lot quicker too.
I think I have a point, or not a point, but like a topic that I'm very interested to talk to you about, because I don't think we've ever talked about this before, and this conversation right now is leading to that a little bit, in my opinion, and so I'm very interested on your take on this. Generally, there are like two schools of thought with life, finding success, making sure that you live a happy, healthy, enjoyable day to day. And these two schools of thought are you have to go out there, fucking get your hands dirty and earn it. Or the reason, and if you don't, the reason that you're suffering, the reason that you're failing, or the reason that you don't have what you want is because you didn't make the right decisions.
Okay.
And then the other school of thought is that if you're failing or you don't have a good life or you don't have the life that you want, it's mainly the failure of the community around you or society or the government. Enter your thing. But like there are certain things that people should just have. And if they don't, it's because the world has failed them, not because they have not worked themselves into a successful point where they could have those things. And based off this conversation, it feels like you are kind of more in the first school of thought that I've described, where you get what you get because you've earned it, because you've made these decisions. So do you think that, and I have my own personal opinion on it, but I'm not conveying it yet because I'm just kind of prodding your mind on it. So correct me if I'm wrong, but like if you were to see someone who is living a life that they don't enjoy, or they have things about their life, they don't make enough money, or they don't like where they live, or they don't like their job, do you think it's their fault? And I don't particularly expect a correct answer, right? I'm more or less just thinking based off of the life you've lived thus far, the family you've grown up in, and the like what you've seen come from your own actions versus what you feel like you're owed from the world, I suppose. What do you think?
I think like 99% of the time, yes, it's their fault. And I think there's also like the like what do I really believe answer to this, and then there's also sometimes answers of what is going to get me the results I want. Is believing that woe was me and life is like this because of the world and whatever circumstances were placed on me going to get me the result, or believing that it's only like this because of what I've done inside of these circumstances. Mm-hmm. So even if those are placed on you, it kind of comes down to if somebody is going to push hard enough in the areas that they really want to and where they're going to focus that energy. I think it is possible for there to be some circumstance where somebody didn't get a good opportunity every single lick of the way, but like to think that you're listening to a podcast on your cell phone and that's you're arrogant.
Right.
I think that you have so many possibilities to do stuff, and most people overlook them or they weren't even there to see it. I don't really believe in luck, but like even if you do believe in luck, you chose to not get up and miss your lucky day. Mm-hmm. So it's like if you believe in luck, it's not like luck's gonna find you. You still have to be there waiting for luck to hit you and strike you on your lucky day, mm-hmm. and take bad luck after bad luck until it does. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a choice of choosing to see it that way, whether it is that way or not, because of the results you want to achieve. Because thinking that the world is just like this because it's like this and you're some small pea and it's all just kind of like you're just butterfly affected by everything else, it doesn't really give you any power or any feeling like you're in control of anything. Like that doesn't help you in it. Like why would you want to think like that? Like for like let's say you do. Think about it from my perspective. This way you have the power to try to change something. You actually get to try. It is meaningful. Why would you want to not believe that? Mm-hmm. Even if it isn't completely true, it at least gives you a better chance at getting the result you want.
Do you think you choose what you believe?
I think like regardless of whether if it gave me what I want.
No, because you said why would you choose to believe that? And my question to you is, do you choose what you believe? Like, could you just right now choose to believe the opposite school of thought that you just described? Or do you believe it for
Yeah, I think it's a choice.
You think belief is a choice?
I don't think you wake up tomorrow and you just don't have the hard thoughts anymore. I think you wake up every day and it's just like whatever it was, you're going to have to make that choice day in and day out again, just like a relationship.
Well, I think it sounds like you're talking more or less about mindset, but I'm saying, like, for instance, like someone who believes that the reason that they're down on their luck is because the world is not only hard, but like harder on them than the average person. I don't. I know it's really hard to change what you believe because you believe it for the reasons that you have laid out based off of the life you've lived or the things you've seen, you know? And like everyone holds beliefs, but the idea that you could like just choose to change those beliefs is kind of hard because if you have a belief that, you know, some of the songs on your Wrapped are good, can you just like choose to believe that they're not anymore, or does it kind of like enroot from something else? Because I think you're right. Like I agree, and I share your mindset on making what you want to happen. I think that most people look over the amount of opportunities presented to them for them to put in some work to get what they want. But I think that the people who don't believe that aren't choosing to not believe that. I think they just genuinely don't believe that, and they would need to be convinced otherwise, you know?
I would agree, but I think anybody who's not putting themselves in both perspectives to try both isn't giving it a fair shot to be like, no, that can't work.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not, why do you believe in what you believe in so hard?
Mm-hmm. You gotta like question the road that is taking you to this.
It's one thing to knock some other perspective, but to not have any value backing up yours or backing up that knocking of the other opinion, it just doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't come from like if a vet comes to you about your like he walks in and he starts talking about like brain stuff, like your neuro like scan came back like this, like it's not like credible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it takes away the credibility when someone's lacking in the effort to even question their own ability, let alone a different perspective,
mm-hmm.
or know why they believe what they believe.
Do you think? I would ask you, do you think we live in a society where everyone gets a equal shot at success? But I think we live in too nuanced of a world to say that everyone gets an equal shot. So my 2.0 revised version of this question would be, do you think we live in a country, per se, where everyone at the bare minimum gets the opportunity to be successful? I won't say that everyone gets the equal opportunity to be successful because there's no way to ever standardize that, nor I don't think that we should. I think, you know, that's just life and you can't force it any other way. But do you think even obviously you're going to have your exceptional cases where someone's born with some awful debilitating disease where they literally can't do anything. But for the average person, do you think everyone in that group of average people at the bare minimum gets a shot at being successful?
I agree that it's not equal. I think some people would start further ahead than other people just due to connections or family or just people like that they know or experiences that they were given earlier. And I think that there's kind of like almost in a way like that where it's just the odds of chance. But I think that everybody has an opportunity to do so. And most people, like I said, like there's a lucky day, you just didn't show up for it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you could have been moping in your bed about how bad it is instead of being out there and hitting the jackpot.
Mm-hmm. But you don't believe in luck?
I don't believe in it. I'm going to carry around a rabbit's foot. This is lucky. I'm a lucky person, kind of a thing like that.
Like
I think there's luck. Aspect. Like there's 25%. Now there's 25% luck. If you say 50%, there's 50% luck. But right. I think it's just the odds.
Yeah, you're just talking about
I don't think you're genuinely saying that you yourself bump those odds.
Right. But I think if you have a 25% chance of whatever thing in front of you going your way, you bump your odds by re-rolling that by putting yourself in that chance multiple times, rather than like if it's a 25% chance and you go once, then your odds of hitting it are 1 in 4. But if you go 4 times, you're greatly bumping the odds of you quote unquote being lucky.
100%.
And so what would you say to someone who thinks that for whatever reason they, because of their circumstances, don't have an opportunity or any opportunity, or the right opportunity, should I say, to pursue what they actually want to do with their life?
I would say there's never a right opportunity. I think opportunities, it's not like you see one and you jump on it. I think it's created as you make it. I don't think it's like this thing that you're looking for to pass by and jump on. I think if you don't create one, it's not going to just exist. Like, the doors are never just going to open for you if you don't knock them.
Mm-hmm.
Ask it one more time.
What would you say to someone who kind of holds that opposite mindset, essentially, like where they don't really think that their success is what they make it? They think that maybe they're held down by society or a certain group or the government or an entity. Like they feel like they're a victim, and you obviously are driven and ambitious and want what you want, and you're going to get it, and nothing's going to get in your way. What would you say? You're on the other side of this fence. What would you say to that person who says like, oh, well, I have a family, I have kids, I have a full-time job, or oh, well, I'm, I feel like I'm in a minority group where I'm hated, or people aren't nice to me, or I don't have the same people skills, or I have a condition where things are harder for me than other people. Like, how would you approach your conversation with that person? Like, what do you feel like they need to hear? And not really in like a David Goggins cutthroat, you need to get out there and fucking grind, brother. But what do you think they need to hear? What do you think is that puzzle piece they're missing? Like, I like when you said, there's no such thing as a right opportunity, but yeah, that's more or less my question.
I think a lot of them are just waiting for not only an opportunity to go passing by like a train and jump on it, but I think they're also looking for luck or some sign that everything's going to start to look better. And I think like even when you do the right things, even though you're doing them, it might suck and it might not feel good. Like going to the gym, you go back on your first day and it feels like shit every goddamn time. You took off a month, came back, I don't want to be here. And it's like that every time, but it's like in the long-term vision and your goal it's a great thing. It's not a bad thing, even though it feels bad. Often what feels bad or what you feel is not always going to be the thing that's going to give you the result you want. I think if you're like, the odds are this, I've done them 5 times over, like I don't know what's wrong. Like, I think it's just time to go back to the initial thing that you're doing and revise it. You did too many revisions, like go back, try it, change something, go back out. You didn't do a revision for 500 things. You did too many tries without a revision. Go back and try it. And being able to try something and keep going and try something and keep going, it's just somebody that's going to stand up again and take failure. I think that's also what it really comes down to, is those people will give up or get knocked down so much easier and then stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think part of it ties to just the person wanting the things more or wanting more things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a difference between, because there are people who really want things, but if they genuinely don't believe there's a path to them, then they're kind of stuck, And that's what I mean. Like, you are in a group of people who believe that there's a path to what you want, and then your role is to want that more than other people, more than that the rest of the people in that group. But like, you wanting that more than someone who also wants it just as bad as you, but hasn't learned the right information or doesn't understand the right concepts for them to even realize that they can pursue it. I think that's the difference, where how badly they want it doesn't matter as much anymore because they're missing a key component.
I think that's fair, but I think it's hard to tell genuinely what is that when a lot of people say that they want it or say that they're doing something and they're not. They'll just be like binging a new show, or they're playing like a game, or they're doing
Indulging
something.
a little.
Exactly, and it's just entertainment, and tomorrow your entertainment's gone. It had no value. It's burnt to a crisp. It's gone. Mm-hmm. And eventually, like, you're going to be at a point where you're old and you do not want to work. You want to enjoy life. But by the time people get there, they're still working. Mm-hmm. And I think a big part of it is, like, I don't want to be that person. Yeah. And understanding that, like, it's kind of also now or never if I'm going to succeed like this is part of it. But I think I don't know. I think that the people that say that are often not trying as hard as
they'd like to admit.
Yeah, because everybody's known someone that, like, oh, I'm trying on a job. And it's like they're not trying as hard as they're saying they are. And then once they do, boom, there's a job.
Right. And they finally see the progress.
And it's kind of like, okay, so you put in your effort, you put in your grit, you put in your income, and you got your outcome. And it's like, maybe you just haven't put in your income enough, or you didn't put it in the right way. And you either put it in too many times the wrong way or didn't put it in enough times. Mm-hmm. So it's like trying to find the balance of when to revise things and go back and go, okay, maybe take a step back. Maybe I didn't do it right. How can I change this and try it again so I do it right? And it's kind of like just running headfirst into a wall until eventually it does plow down. And like, it kind of does sound like crazy,
yeah, but you have to have the belief that it will plow down.
Rather than that, you would just believe that there's a wall and you're never going to get through it. So you might as well sit there and look at the wall and pretend it's pretty.
Yeah, pretend it's pretty. I like that. You're fairly confident in your answers, and I like that. And I'm going to ask you an impossible question because no one is really able to answer this, but that's what makes them fun. Out of your mindset, who you are as a person, the values you hold and the things you believe, if you had to guess or you had to have a hunch on, like, kind of, I mean, we can pick from what we've talked about today just so that the listener can have some sort of gauge, because maybe they don't know all of you. But if you had to, you're 19,
right?
You have a lot of life to live. I remember holding a certain level of maturity and confidence at 19. And I can confidently say that I am a noticeably different person now in terms of, like, my mindset, what's important to me, my values, but also the same person, if that sentence makes sense. So my impossible question for you is, if you had to guess or have a hunch as to what belief that you hold is incorrect, and that you listening back to this at 25, you'll listen to what your 19-year-old self had to say, what your opinions were. Do you have any gut inclination, or if you had to guess, what stance or what belief or what idea that you hold do you think may not actually keep with you as you age?
I think I'm going to believe it more. I think once I see it, I'm not going to be able to, like, it's going to be if you did. It's not going to be if you do, it'll be if you did. Because I did do it.
Right.
And I think seeing that and hanging out with people that also did do it will show me that. But until I'm in that position to confidently say so, like a Jordan Belfort show me the check kind of moment, you're not in there to be able to confidently be like, yes. So I think that's kind of I think that would change. I think I would be a lot more sure in a lot of my answers.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I would be like, I said what? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it doesn't even pertain to, like, let's say, running a successful business or success in that definition. But even, like, your beliefs on people or what's important in life or things that you love. Like, do you feel like there are aspects of yourself that maybe you have begin to see shed, but like only a little bit, and you're like, dang, maybe in 5 or 6 years this just won't be as important to me, or something else will replace it. Because I'm basically asking, what's your prediction of what will be different about you later in life, and then it'll be fun for you to listen back and see if you were right. Like I said, impossible question.
It is a big question. I think that's a good question. Yeah, I think I 100% will be a lot more sure of my answers, because like I think I've only been trying as hard as I have been for maybe like 6 or 8 months. Like before that, it was like very much so just show up and do the thing and get paid and go home, clock in, clock out, goodbye. Like, but since like it's kind of been completely up to me, I think I have been trying a lot harder, and I think the confidence I have has been built on that and kind of previous other little life experience things, but mostly that. But I think having more experience to back that up will make me more sure of those answers.
Mm-hmm. So you think? So do you feel like you lack that conviction right now, or not conviction, but like conviction in your answers? Do you feel like you lack that confidence in your answers?
I feel like I lack the confidence to preach it as gospel and expect others to believe it completely.
Like this is just a for you thing until you have the receipts.
100%.
And then you point at the receipts, not at your beliefs.
But now if Conor McGregor calls out, I'm going to knock him out with a left hook, and it's like, I'm going to uppercut him or whatever, everyone's like waiting for that left uppercut. Like everybody's seen him do it. He's called it on 5 people. So I think there's a difference between people who are just talking the talk, and it's just like them like almost like romanticizing their dream life, and then there's people and they're like, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna have this, there's gonna be this, and this is what it's like, this is what I want, this is what I'm working towards. And then there's other people and it's like, man, if I had fun money, it's not even like their wants. So I think a lot of it comes to people understanding also what they want. Right. It's hard to want it that much if you don't even know what it is.
Right. The more vague it is, the more it's just a dream.
If you don't know what you're gonna do tomorrow, you're not gonna do anything that big.
Right.
So it's like if you have tomorrow planned out, you're going to get up and go to the schedule. Yeah. But if you don't have a single thing planned, you're going to spend the first hour trying to schedule it out, trying to figure it out, and then you're not going to be just go, go, go in the flow.
Mm-hmm. No, I like it. I mean, I have my own little project that I'm working on, and your fiery drive and ambition blows mine out of the water. So I think, I definitely think you are spot on with a lot of your assessments in that realm, and I think I'll do another shift in gears here where we just hit the hour mark, so it'll be fun to kind of pivot a little. And I don't know if there's any other points you want to make on this topic before we move to another one. But how do you think our relationship has evolved over time? Just you and I. Like, I don't know, you were a fucking little brat for a while. When you were a kid, you were the like ornery youngest, and we were beefing for a little bit, but that was normal, I feel, normal sibling headbutting. But then there was kind of a point where I feel like we had like 3 phases of our relationship with each other. There was kind of like the age gap is too big for there to be any real relationship, so it's kind of like you're a kid, I'm a teenager, and there's like oh yeah, that's just my little brother. And then there was kind of a actually, you know what, I'm not going to answer my own question. I want you to answer it, and then I'll give my answer later, because I don't want my answer to affect yours. So question is, how do you think our relationship has evolved over the years?
I don't know. To finish what you were saying, we had our first phase where there was too big of an age gap, and inside of that age gap, it's honestly the most dramatic inside of life. It's just hard to have a relationship where it's a friendly relationship. Everybody's met someone that's like 2-3 years younger than them, And it's like, you're really cool and you're gonna be really cool. It's just I can't click with you like that because you don't understand what I'm saying, and I lived it 3 years ago. Like, so I think there was some of that for the majority of childhood, and I think that kind of has some of the like brotherhood love kind of bond, but I don't think that's making the deep friendship connection kind of a thing inside of that. And then I feel like after that, our second phase is...
You're fine. You can bump the mic. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay. Our second phase was kind of like you bringing me around, but I don't think it was like, dude, bro. Like, it wasn't just kind of like on a, as much so of like a friends kind of level. It was more of like a, like, this is my little bro. He comes around, like, he's cool. What's up? Like, and then now it's more of like a friendly kind of like shooting it back and forth. It's not like, I mean, back, call it the second phase. Back, like what I was saying, like you were coaching me, it was kind of like a little bit different of roles that we played. Like I kind of say like a thing where I'm like, well, that's just the roles that we play, and then that just kind of depends on whatever it is. Like me and you would be brothers, of course, but like if you were meeting, for instance, your boss, like you play the role of the worker and he plays the boss, like every time. And it just depends on the perspective of who you're with. But I think the second phase was kind of just the roles we played of like, you were still a lot older than I was and experiencing a lot different of things for the first time. And I wasn't experiencing any of those things. And like you said, 8-year gap. So like I'm in middle school and you're in high school. So it's like a very big gap, and then fast forward to now, I feel like the amount of growth is kind of different from people that are in high school and like college to like people after college and through college and out. I feel like there it doesn't matter as much. I feel like the age gap starts to become less big. I mean,
less relevant.
Yeah, exactly. Like people in high school are like, oh, you're hanging out with a freshman, and then like you get out of it and you're 19 hanging out with a 53-year-old at lunch. Where do you want to go? You want Burger King? You want Del Taco? It's like that completely breaks it, like fractures it.
Absolutely.
So I think that kind of both of us experiencing that on our own, and just me over time, you seeing me mature, has kind of switched it from that to us being more of like friends, and it's not as much of a like, you feel responsible for me or anything like that also.
Yeah. I think that nails it pretty well. I was going to describe, I stopped myself right before I said it, but I was going to describe the second phase as much more of like a mentor pupil phase that we had, because I was coaching you in baseball for 3 years. And then there was also just that phase where you were coming to me with like questions about like the biggest questions in life, or perspective on people, why the kids in class were so annoying yet you were somehow still the same age as them, like all of that stuff. And I was in this I was your age now during that, and it was kind of in a situation of like, oh wow, like I've never really been the mentor for people. Like I've always been the pupil. And now I'm in this position where someone's asking me questions that I know, and I know the answer confidently because I've lived it. And so I'm giving you my perspective on life and what's important and why we do the things we do, and
your first taste of wisdom.
yeah, exactly. And what I've experienced with people, like the good, the bad, the ugly, like heartbreak and everything in between. And you seemed to take on the information very well. Like a lot of people, I'm the friend group therapist most of the time. People have issues that are bugging them, and they come to me, and I lay them down on my couch and whip out my clipboard and go, but why does it make you feel that way? And so I've done my fair share of giving people advice. But a lot of people think that because what I say doesn't align with what they feel, that I'm wrong. And I'm fine with being wrong, but you need to counter my point with another logical point, like not just feelings. and you have always seemed to understand that, even from a very young age. And that's not to say that, like, when I say something, it's correct and you just get it. But you seem to understand that if you didn't agree or something didn't make sense, you needed to come to me with an actual counterpoint that can be taken seriously, not a like meaningless anecdote or just a gut feeling. And I have friends who are my age and older who I will say, hey, you know, we need to get it together. Like, life works this way, whether you care that it does or not, or whether you want it to or not. It works this way. Are you going to agree to the rules and finally play the game the right way, or are you going to ignore them and continue to suffer? And so many people just don't listen to that. Like, we can disagree on what we think the rules of the game are, or why life is the way it is, or where it originates, or anything in between. But at the end of the day, like, globally, in many different cultures, most human beings come to the same conclusion, where it's like, no one's going to save you. Like, you're on your own. Your life is what you make of it. So go make it something.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, you did a good job of kind of grasping those harder concepts really early on. And then now our third phase is a lot more mutual. You've officially entered the real world now. As a 19-year-old, you got to graduate a little early and start being a semi-adult earlier than average. And so,
a little bit.
Yeah. And so it's easier to be able to discuss certain things with you and know that you're not only, like, you're not just listening to me because I'm someone with wisdom and you have never experienced it. Now we're starting to share experiences because your Monopoly piece is finally on the board.
Yeah.
And you're starting to go around and play the game.
100%. I think that had a big hand in it. And, like, your first 18 years, roughly, I feel like are roughly similar to everybody. So everyone shows up to the place they don't really want to be at and hangs out with their friends and then goes home and does a little bit of the homework and then copies their friends and turns it in and takes tests the next day and then does the same thing next week.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really this, like, very unique experience. Everybody kind of collectively agrees, like, that was, like, a weird time for them. It was, like, an interesting dynamic between a lot of, like, just people and friends, and, like, it's, like, a weird time for a lot of people. Everybody's kind of figuring it out. But then, like, as you said, fast forward to now, like, I feel like everybody starts to run very different paths, and it starts to intrigue people because they spent their, like, all day working on a construction loan. Meanwhile, somebody else spent all day working on selling an inflatable pool toy to somebody. So it's, like, it's interesting to hear, what did you do, like, for 40 hours this week? Like, this is what I did. So I think since there's only so much time and you can only experience so many things, the curiosity trait in people starts to really nag, like, wondering what other people do with those 40 hours a week, because that's a lot of time and you know it because you live it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you at work, you'll tell people that you spend more time with them than your own family.
Yeah.
And so I know people tend to resent the old "what do you do for a living" question, because it's in a lot of people's brains seen as meaningless small talk. But I think you make a good point on that, where it's like, you know, you're doing a thing for 40 hours every week. Like, whether it's a passion or not, like, you probably have some interesting knowledge on something that I don't. I've never had a more random collection of knowledge than when I used to work at the pool shop in Quartz Hill, and I knew how to test your water to see if your pH levels were off, and what to diagnose and to prescribe shock or chlorine or both, and the whole nine. And I just remember being this, like, fucking 19-year-old kid who, like, knew nothing and just should have been buying Bitcoin. And instead I'm like popping open a pool cleaner and like, oh, this is the problem, the gearbox isn't put in right. Like who am I to know this shit? Like, I have no business being knowledgeable on the different brands and what I recommend for your pool motor or where the best chlorine comes from. Like, it's just weird.
You're like, I like this packaging. Pick that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It's a fucking trip, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how like this ages for you, how because this will be up and available for you to come back to fucking a million years from now. So
yeah,
it'll be cool to follow up on some of the things that you aspire, and obviously, like, I'm fucking rooting for all of those things. I really hope that how about this? We can do a podcast episode in 5 years because I don't plan on stopping this. So we can do a podcast episode in 5 years, and if everything you've done happens like you say, or you're still on the way and you've been doing it exactly like you are planning, we'll do a 10-second episode where you come on and then you go, "I told you so," and then it ends. And that'll be the the indicator that you're on track.
Wow, that's something, huh?
You said what?
That's something, huh?
But if not, it'll be a 2-hour one where you talk about where you went wrong.
On where I went wrong. 5 years, that's a lot of time to fuck up. I'll make some fuck ups. There'll be some stuff to talk about.
No, there's the only path to success is through fuck ups. You're not gonna get what you want
100%
without doing it. I've already fucked up a few episodes that I've recorded. I'll probably fuck up more.
Yeah, I just see it as like a X amount of fuck ups until they're a necessary evil until somebody gets the achieved result.
Yeah, I God, who was it? Who was I talking to? Was it Joel? I can't remember. I was talking to someone when we were snowboarding, and I told them, like, hey, because they were getting frustrated by the fact that they kept falling on their ass. It was their first time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was Joel, but I can't remember. And I said, hey, you have a finite number of falls until and once you get through all those, you're officially good at snowboarding. Congratulations, you just have one less. Like, keep going. Like, fall some more. Go fall some more. Like, you're gonna get that number down.
Yeah.
But you will never be able to be good at snowboarding until that number is 0. So go fall more, so we can get it out of the way.
That's exactly. I used to skate, for anyone who didn't know that. I would go downstairs or whatever, and you just eat shit down the stairs, basically, until you land the trick and you're happy.
Sounds
That's the
great.
gist of it. It's so wonderful. But basically, you, like he was saying, like, you have to genuinely believe, I'm going to land this in under 30 tries, so I'm going to fail 29 times until I land it. And just believe you haven't made it there and do another one, not knowing how many more are to come. And then eventually one day you make it. Like, so I think it's just how many people have the resilience to not give up and to continue to not give up day after day after day, even when that stacks up.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen this mindset pay off with what you've been striving for with your business?
100%. I should easily be able to match or do more than when I was working at the grocery store. Not that that was some crazy amount. It was like 16 or 17 an hour, but I should be able to match that, not getting as many hours, but being able to make more per job. And then hopefully within a full year of doing this, be able to match it kind of in numbers wise of how much I'm doing, if that makes sense. So I think being able to see something 6 months like into the making after not even knowing what I was going to do for a month in between kind of gives me the assurance to know that it can go like that. And if you meet anybody successful, they're always willing to say if they lost it all, they can get it back again. I've never met somebody who says that they can't. Right. It was just luck, or they just hit it big on the lottery and it's already gone.
This is actually something interesting that we were talking about before we were recording. What's your perspective on having a mentor or mentorship in general?
I think having a mentor is like, let's say, so it's going to take 5 falls in snowboarding to get to the next level. So you're going to do your 5 falls and you're going to climb 1 step, but it's 20 steps to floor 2. So you're going to fall your 5 times for each step all the way up those 20. Having a mentor is like paying a lot of money. You shove it in the machine, get in an elevator, click the button, and shoot up.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my comparison, being able to have somebody kind of tell you. And instead of like making each and every one of those fails over and over again, they can kind of tell you, and you're able to walk up and down those stairs, like right back down if you wanted to. But like on the way up, they're able to just kind of shoot you up in an elevator and kind of fill you up with skills and help you along the way. That way you're at a certain point. I don't think that continuously having one nonstop is good, but I think going through seasons of having them is not bad. But I think the big thing is that a lot of people, there's a lot of shitty ones, like, to put it frankly.
It's a toxic culture at times.
It very much so is. And there's also a lot of people in it for money. So I think that just as hard as you're going to try, once you do get into said program, which you're going to pay X amount of money for every month,
I'm not necessarily even saying a paid mentorship. I'm just saying like mentorship in general, because there are people who mentor.
But I think like the effort going into finding that person is just as important as actually trying to do the thing that they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard to also do something that you don't believe in, or like you can't put faith in. And the only way that I see getting some advice that I don't need to question or put my time into questioning, I can just do it and see if it works and not have to think about it, is somebody who's in a position that I would want to be in. So finding someone that's in that position that you would want to be in that way, and then taking their advice and just applying it time after time until you get somewhere, I think gets you very, very far. And then after you're able to grow with the skills and kind of like the systems or processes that you end up setting up to help you in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Now that you're doing this, do you do you spend your free time on like leisurely acts? Do you still recreationally enjoy bullshit, whether it be like video games or whatever? Or are you like fucking grind mode boss bitch all the time?
I'll play Drift Sim with my friends if they come over. But like that gives me real life, like that helps. Like if I'm in my car drifting, it feels like the game.
Even when I'm fucking around, I'm getting better than you.
I don't know. I guess like only if I'm really, I think I take maybe like a couple. It's like maybe like 3 or 4 days a month, but then I'll watch like a show. Like maybe here I'll watch like an episode before I need to go to sleep, wake up, do it again. But I don't think it matters. It's not like my time to be like, oh my god, like I'm in the best state of my life, and it's like I'm about to turn 20, and that's fantastic. But it's like your late 20s, 30s, those are like your prime time of your life. So it's like if I ever want something during that time, I have to get that now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And me not doing anything is actively choosing the opposite of what I'm wanting.
Right.
I think no matter what, you go in a direction, whether it's in the direction of the thing you want or opposite of the direction, and every choice, no matter of how silly or whatever it is, regardless, puts you in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people going to college don't even realize that they are doing that. Like, you are actively working towards having a good prime years. Like, because you are using your early 20s to, quote unquote, grind out this degree so that when you're 27, you're a successful engineer, or you're a teacher, or you're starting to work in a biolab or something like that. You have that credential that you needed to kind of sacrifice some of those years for.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of fucked around for my early 20s. Like I had a full-time job and was still actively trying to better myself, but I wasn't like investing my time and resources the way that like you are for a business or people were for a degree. And I think I kind of just got kind of lucky with where I'm at now, where like I've still been able to show success over the years even without that hard investing into something. But if I were to go back, I would definitely take a similar route that you have been. Not to say that I would like start my own business, but I think I would have put off more short-term satisfaction for a bigger long-term gain than I did. And now, granted, that all being said, I don't regret shit. Like, I loved my early 20s. You were there for it. I was fucking around with Joel, Springer, Saeed, Mason, like the whole crew, all the time, and we were having a ball, and I loved it, and I would never trade it for anything. But I definitely see it now, like when I witness people with degrees who are younger than me make more than me, and I'm like, dang, like you did that shit, like that was worth it, like good for you, you know. I'm happy for people like that. So it is a good mindset to have. I know that there's a good camp of people that are like, nah, dude, you're like, you know, you're young, enjoy it, like, you know, don't be so hard on yourself, or like your early 20s are meant for like partying and like going out and having a good time. And I think there's always room for that. You'll never not get the opportunity to go get drunk on a weekend or go fuck around with your friends on a Saturday night. That'll always be there, even if you run your own business or you go to school or whatever. But the choice is to not trade lifestyles entirely for it, to where your 7-day week is how can I fuck around the most or fuck off the most versus like it's cool. Like you don't have a schedule now. Like you do, but you don't have a schedule that other people are making for you.
No, I make it. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Someone's like, hey, I have a birthday dinner this day. And I'm like, all right, I'll be there.
Yeah.
And then that's that. It's like hard if somebody's like, hey, I planned something. And I'm like, you planned that. And I booked a car that day like 4 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like they tell me like a week or two in advance or with a decent amount, then it's like, oh, yeah, I can definitely be there. Versus like my old job, I'd be like, hey, can I get some time off? And it was kind of just like a big fuck you. And so I was like, I think that was part of it. And it was like having to call out and then deal with the bad rep when I came back. It was one of the other things that made me want to kind of be able to work for myself and make my own schedule and do things when I wanted to. I think it's a little bit of like a character trait of people that start businesses to kind of like question authority and kind of want to like kind of like a like fuck you, like I'm gonna do it my way then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of what drives some of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get that. How do I want to phrase it? I think at the end of the day, though, it is healthy to be able to make sure that you are still enjoying life. You know?
I agree. I think if you don't have any kind of self-time, there's going to be burnout.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out where your limits are of how much you can work before you hit burnout. You're going to hit burnout 5-6 times before you even understand what it is. Like, people think that they're going to hit something once and that's that. Testing a theory and making sure that it's going to like consistently live itself out as you test it, that's kind of like what makes it. And I feel like some people don't test things enough before they put all their faith in them.
Mm-hmm. I also think like you have your girlfriend, like that probably contributes to some of your like leisurely, like I'm not on grind mode time.
That's where most of my leisurely I'm not on grind mode time goes.
Mm.
But I think that also honestly partly drives some of my I'm on go time just because of I feel like since she's a little bit older than me, I have some catching up to do in a sense, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Even if that's just in like a you're this old, I'm this old, or it's how am I going to provide once push comes to shove and it's like family time or this, because obviously if one person's older, they're going to hit the kind of like golden age that you're wanting to do that at. So it's like I need to be more prepared than what somebody who had a 3-year head, like 3 more years basically to do so, and I need to not only be more prepared than them but also do it quicker and with less amount of years.
Yeah, no, I get it. I got my cougar of a girlfriend. I need to catch up and make sure that I'm as successful as I'm I'm the bread loser right now, so I gotta find a way to to climb that leaderboard.
But I think some of it also partly just comes into how badly you want to be valuable and what you think makes yourself valuable.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been with Tiff now?
A little over 2 years.
So I think this will be our final talking point, and then we'll wrap it up. But I think this will be a fun one. What do you think it takes to have a successful relationship? I don't know your guys' relationship ins and outs. I'm assuming you guys are just like everyone else when it comes to a relationship. You have your good and your bad and everything in between. But you guys have seemed to be doing it the right way, doing it pretty well. What do you think you have figured out that maybe a lot of people don't?
One of these I took from you, which was kind of like a no name calling kind of a thing, but it's not just like a no name calling. It is like a very big thing that I've started or tried to implement is like, no matter what, from the beginning, it needs to be established that it is always you two as a team versus the other thing. The second it starts to become one person versus the other, it isn't even about the problem anymore. So X, Y, Z can pop up and it's about you two versus each other, and you two are together, so you're always going to be there for each other until you're not, because you're just fighting each other. So unless you're fighting an actual problem, you're just fighting each other. It's counterintuitive. So I think setting up a good place for people to feel welcome to bring things to attention, and it doesn't feel like an attack on the other person, which feels very personal, and then it starts to become me versus you again. Rather than that, just focusing on you two versus said problem or said thing that happened, finding a solution or a compromise, and then that way both people have a walk away or a takeaway, and then respecting the other one's time limit to do so, because like everybody gets mad differently. Mm-hmm. Some people piss off, they come back in a minute and they want to talk about it. Some people piss off and they need a day and they're back. And I think some of that ties into emotional maturity. And I think there's probably a deadline of how long it takes somebody. I don't have an answer to say of what that is, but I think if someone is emotionally mature, they're still going to have a range of when they start to cool down. And if you love that person or care about them, and you care about the relationship, approaching it in that golden time zone is also the best way to do so and solve your issue.
Yeah, you shouldn't be trying to solve a problem when emotions are high.
So then the only problem that should pop up is that things are being communicated to be solved.
Right.
And then if money's not a factor to be stressed, and most of the other basic fundamentals aren't being stressed, and it's still you two versus said problem, it should be dealt with accordingly or well, I think.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like and maybe this is a little vulnerable, but do you feel like there are things that you've learned about yourself that you have realized are points of focus for you to improve on? I feel like if Tiff's listening, she's like, I can tell you.
Yeah. I think for starters, like me being very go, 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 it's very easy to what's next. And I'm so worried about forgetting one of the things of, I don't know how many things I need to accomplish. And then it's like, hey, I texted you 40 minutes ago. And I'm like, oh, my bad again. Like, I'm so sorry. So I think like that's probably my biggest thing that I need to work on is as I push myself harder to accomplish more is being able to at the same time make sure I'm kind of keeping in touch with the relationship and making sure that all sides are being heard and that there's a genuine quality time and kind of the needs are being met and anything in that sense, because I think it's easy to get very sucked into one thing.
Yeah. So like time management and making sure you're kind of present in the moment.
100%. And just communicating throughout the day, like you were saying, kind of being present and things like that. But just in general, like it's very easy when you look at a long list and go, how am I going to accomplish all this? To think about all the other like things that you need to do besides that list when you are so like, how am I going to finish this? Only focused in tunnel visioned on it in a way. Just because if you have like a list of things and you're thinking about la-da-da and la-di-di, like you're not even worried about the list. You're not going to do it as quickly or as efficiently.
Yeah.
So I think trying to find a balance between the two is probably my biggest struggle right now.
Mm-hmm. Do when you first got into this relationship versus now, like this is like your first real serious relationship, I would say, right? Yeah, for more or less. And so what do you feel like you've learned about how relationships work in a way that's like maybe surprised you, or you felt like you maybe didn't predict when you first started, where you're like, I did not think they'd go this way, or I didn't think I'd get this out of it, or I had no idea I'd learn so much about myself?
I think I had one before, and that kind of taught me a lot. But like I said, like until something stands the test of time, I don't really for sure. I can't put all of like faith in it. So I think kind of like understanding and recognizing some of those things previously, and then being able to now kind of knowing a little bit, be able to kind of like either catch certain things or be able to put more effort in certain areas just to make sure that things kind of go like flawlessly or seamlessly.
Like being proactive.
Yeah, 100%. But I think mostly this time around, honestly, like I don't even just want to say relationship wise, like the biggest difference I would probably say has probably been like just culturally.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even like a relationship bound kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say like that probably has the biggest learning curve to it for me. And
can you elaborate?
Just trying to become close with people that you can't fully speak the language that they speak, or it's hard for you to always understand them, or things like that. It makes it hard to have like one of those like conversations where you're like, wow, like that was flawless, like that was perfect, like I love that conversation.
I hit it off.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like for both parties it makes that interaction to achieve harder. If that makes sense.
Are you trying to learn Spanish?
Some. I'm supposed to be taught, but that was promised 2 years ago.
So, taught by her?
Here we are. Duolingo taught me a little bit. I know a little bit, but that's it.
Are you like capable of holding a conversation?
Me speaking it, no.
No?
Yeah.
You're kind of just sitting back and observing?
Yeah, that's more of where I'm at. I can understand some things, but it's not like I know every word in the whole conversation fluently.
Is Tiff fluent?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's not mentoring you? That's crazy.
No, but it's also like it's like Chilean slang mixed in with it.
Oh my God.
I'm like looking it up on Urban Dictionary, and I'm like, does it mean this? And she's like, no. And I'm like, oh God.
That's funny.
So there's like
Chilean slang. Oh my God.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different definitions and different little subcultures. And so not only do I have to find the right one, but it has to be like right to their culture and everything. Right. Otherwise it's like, no, that's the Spain one. No, that's from there. Or like, it's just like the standard Latin. I don't know. There's just so many different ones. So finding the right definition in that culture, it just makes the learning curve even harder. Or like Duolingo's wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean Duolingo's wrong?
Yeah. Duolingo is the Bible. No, I get it. I mean, you're essentially learning two languages at once. You're attempting to understand Spanish and then attempting to understand the Chilean tongue of Spanish.
Attempting.
Yeah.
Keyword there.
Yeah, I mean, Rachel speaks pretty good Spanish. I think if I said fluent, she would try to humble herself, but she can speak a conversation for sure. And I've seen her struggle a little bit here and there with Mexican Spanish because she learned her Spanish in Madrid, and so there are key terms and phrases, and Mexicans are notorious for speaking very quick and very fast. So if you don't catch everything that they said, like you missed two sentences, and so it's definitely like I've thankfully like been in California my whole life and been around Mexican Spanish long enough to be able to hear her accent in her Spanish. And I've even noticed, I haven't even really told her this, But I've even noticed the occasional Spanish word that I'll say, I'll have a little bit of her accent in it. I'm like, no.
Just from hearing it from her?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, God, no, I don't want to start saying Theo at the end of everything I say rather than way. So I gotta, like, I'm already white enough. Like, if I start speaking white Spanish, I'm cooked. Like, I'm not gonna make it in LA, man.
It's gonna be like Paul Walker saying "cuh."
I said, don't worry about it, cuh. That's funny. Yeah, man. I don't know, but I'm glad. It makes me happy to see that you guys are like doing it well and figuring it out and making sure that you're dealing with issues as a third party rather than like one versus the other.
It's definitely better that way.
Mm-hmm. That's another talking point that I've had with people recently, which is just like I've had a lot of discussions within the last year or so with people where we're disagreeing on something like political, let's say, and the best way to approach it, the best way to approach it is don't identify with your opinions. Like, they are not you. You have opinions. You are not opinions, if that caveman speak makes sense.
Yeah.
And so when I bring up a point that maybe goes against your opinion, it's not going against you as a person. And so you don't need to get your emotions wrapped up into it. You don't need to like feel like it's a personal dig.
Right.
We're allowed to discuss topics openly, and quite frankly, like, there should be a complete minimum of emotions involved, unless it is like something really, really meaningfully close to your heart,
Very personal.
maybe even like attached to trauma. Then I understand, and I will be empathetic with that within the conversation, within the means. That needs to be communicated, obviously, or else you're not going to know.
Yeah.
But so many people just get so wrapped up in like identity politics and making sure that they're making even aspects of themselves political. And I'm like, as soon as you do that, you're no longer going to be capable of changing your mind, because then you will feel like you are changing your identity or your person. And once you've done that, it's such a different task. And so it's good that you guys are tackling stuff as a separate entity rather than you fucked up. You made me feel this way.
100%. I don't think there's really any gain in that. I think a lot of the time, like, people look at very short-term gains, like what's going to make me feel good, not just like, what do I really want? Like, best outcome, what do I see happening? Like, not a week from now, like a year from now, like what's actually what I want?
Mm-hmm.
Not how am I going to feel good when I drive away, or how am I going to feel good after I turn around, or when I tell my friend.
After I tell him to fuck off.
Yeah, like, what do I genuinely want, and how am I going to achieve that? And not caring about anything else in between that, and then just reaping the benefit of the last time you made that decision. And people, I think a lot of times, can't make that decision long enough to reap a benefit to continuously do that.
Mm-hmm. It seems like your like biggest core value right now seems to be prioritizing long-term gain over short-term payoff in all aspects. Like, you kind of just applied it there to a relationship where you're like, I don't give a fuck about what it takes right now. Know my goal and get to it. Like, which my goal is happy girlfriend.
I don't think it's that. I think it's that majority of people nowadays don't have that long of an attention span, and they care too much about their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I think they care less about what they really want. And if it was about what they really like, just what they wanted, not about how they wanted to feel for 5 seconds after, then they would get that result or act in a different way. But I think I just hear so many people complain about things that could be changed, or about a way that something was done after, when it was ultimately always up to you.
Mm-hmm.
And always has been. So, like, I think a lot of people won't ever try hard enough to continuously put it in and then kind of like reap the long-term game over and over and over again, where it's built upon itself that largely. But I also think it takes a long time to get to that point. Just like going to the gym, you're not going to see it for 6-9 months until you're really going to start to see it.
Right.
There's kind of that point where you kind of break above a plateau, and you start to genuinely see it, not just think that it's going to be there and have faith that it's going to be there, but genuinely can see it's going to be like that.
Yeah. You actually get to, the progress is right in front of you.
Exactly. Like I said, like you reap the benefit consistently, but until you're going to reap long-term benefits consistently, you have to put in the slow work until they start to come in.
Yeah.
But it's so much easier for people to get a dopamine hit and scroll on their like Instagram Reels or TikTok like it's the lottery and get their next hit, or watch a show, or not think about, oh my God, like this person just became president and I don't want them to, or this just happened and I don't like that, or oh my God, I heard about this in China, or I heard about this and this. And it's just so much easier for people to tune out rather than worry about the things that are actually going to matter just value-wise for them in the future. Everyone's always so focused about like, I don't like this, like I don't like how I feel, like let me do this, or let me disassociate this way. And it's just not at all a good coping mechanism. And then their next thing is to blame it on life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of where that mindset of like, it just happened to me came from. Like,
right. Yeah, I agree. I think we've covered a lot.
I think so too.
Do you have any closing remarks or any final words of wisdom you want to depart with? Well said. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. I didn't think you were gonna put me on the spot like that.
That's what I've been doing for the last hour 45 is just putting you on the spot.
I know. If only they could see the glare I gave you. I don't know. People need to be more positive. They need to try a little bit harder. Their relentlessness to give up is going to be their biggest attribute in success. People like to give up before they can get anything. It's easier to not go to the gym that day and not see that anything for whatever 2-3 months, and then you won't see it ever, than just going every day until you will see it, and then all of a sudden you're addicted to that. Mm-hmm. And like you see it, maybe not personally you've seen it, but you've probably seen it with a friend. Things like that. I think people give up on them too easily, but I think that people need to put more research into where they put their credibility to be able to jump and dive off an 80-foot cliff not knowing where it's going to land, knowing that they're going to catch themselves because they've done a little bit of research and they actually know something. It's not just like, it looks like it. I think it's good. Guess. That feels good. I like it over here. Let's stay. Like, and I think a lot of the times it's just going to be what they need. They know they need to do, not what feels good. Like 90% of the time.
All right. He's telling y'all to lock in. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. I think we're good then. Thank you everyone for listening. I hope you've gained something from this. I hope you're ready to wake up tomorrow and start your own business and hit the gym. I thank you for coming and sitting down. I know.
Yeah, of course.
You've never really done anything like this, so
not at all. Thank you for having me.
I think you did well. It'll be interesting to have you on in the future and see how things progress and see how your mindset changes or doesn't, or pivots or gains conviction or any of the sort. It'll act as a fun bookmark, fun timestamp. And with that being said, we're going to close it out. Thank you everyone for listening to Unserious University. I don't know what episode it is. I never fucking know. I told you in the intro what episode it is. Thank you all for listening. Catch you on the next week. Peace out.